You ever wake up on a Thursday, coffee in hand, the world so perfectly quiet it almost feels staged, like life is finally, blessedly predictable, and then boom, it all unravels before breakfast? Yeah, that was me, right here in my picture-perfect cul-de-sac where every lawn is manicured to within an inch of its life, and even the mailboxes seem like they're afraid to step out of line. It's the kind of suburb where the biggest drama used to be someone's dog digging up the wrong flower bed. I love that piece. I protected it. But I should have known. Every story has its villain, and ours just happened to be a woman named Karen. You know the type. Platinum bob, sunglasses indoors, a clipboard she wielded like the Constitution, self-appointed queen of the HOA, and a stickler for rules that most people didn't even know existed. Karen treated those bylaws like scripture, man. I mean, she went after garden gnomes, porch flags, even trash bins. She had a radar for violations that bordered on supernatural. Most of us just kept our heads down, fixed what she pointed out, and learned to step over her nonsense like you'd step over a cracked tile in your kitchen. But deep down, I always suspected one day she'd push it too far. I just never figured my garage would be the battlefield. So, here's how it started. At first, Karen's brand of neighborhood tyranny was almost funny. Little notices on my door in bolded Times New Roman, reminding me my grass was too long. I checked, 2 3/4 inches. Still, I trimmed it. Then it was the trash bins, apparently visible for an unacceptable duration, even though I put them out like everybody else. I even got dinged for a little Route 66 flag on my porch. Not board approved. Violation notice taped right to my door. Nobody else seemed to get these. Just me, lucky me. Every week, some new made-up offense. A wind chime? Noise pollution? Porch light? Disruptive to nocturnal ambience. Karen would always smile, real polite like, head tilted. Don't you want to keep our community beautiful? It was the kind of smile that made you check your pockets after you walked away, but I let it slide. Figured it was just her thing, and if I kept my head down, she'd move on. Spoiler alert, she didn't. Because Karen didn't want peace, she wanted control. And then, on a Saturday that started off as normal as ever, she crossed a line you don't come back from. Picture this, sun coming in through the kitchen, me in slippers, ready to do a whole lot of nothing. Maybe tidy up the garage, maybe not. I hit the button, the door creaks up, and there it is, a massive silver SUV, parked smack in the middle of my garage. Not my car. Not even a car I recognize. Just there. My workbench shoved aside, boxes knocked over, oil on the floor. For a second, I actually wondered if I was dreaming. But no, right on the windshield, tucked under the wiper, was a note in a looped, aggressively cheery cursive, on HOA letterhead, no less. Hi, needed a bit of shade for the afternoon. Your garage was open and empty, so I figured it wouldn't be a problem. Back later. Karen. I stared at that note, and all I could think was, this can't be real, right? She didn't call, didn't ask, didn't knock. She just assumed my garage was community property, like it was her God-given right. My coffee went cold as I circled her SUV, realizing she'd tracked gravel in, left oil stains, and just straight up invaded my space. I called, texted, nothing. She just figured I'd be cool with it, like back later was some kind of magical permission slip. The more I thought about it, the more my blood boiled. This wasn't just a neighborly misunderstanding. This was trespassing, plain and simple. And the kicker? She expected me to roll over and take it. Well, not this time. So you know what I did? I went to the hardware store, bought the biggest, baddest deadbolt they had, and installed it on the garage. Took out the electronic opener, no keypad, no code, just a steel bolt you couldn't hack. Then I wrote my own note and taped it to the outside. Garage in use. Temporary access unavailable. Thank you for understanding. It was polite. It was vague. It was pure Karen. And then I booked myself a little vacation. A cabin in the mountains, no cell service, no HOA notices, just trees and silence. Packed a bag, killed the power to the garage opener, and drove off, waving at her house on my way out. As I merged onto the highway, She finally texted, "Hey, just trying to grab my SUV. You around?" Did I answer? Nope. I tossed my phone in the glove box and cranked up the radio. She could wait. Up in those mountains, I remembered what real quiet sounded like. Crackling fire, the wind in the pines, the whole world slowed down. I let the tension melt away, the irritation gone. Meanwhile, Karen was blowing up my phone. Text after text, starting polite, then growing desperate, then all caps rage. "This is illegal. The HOA will hear about this." I scrolled, sipped my wine, and just smiled. Then Doug, the HOA president, whose only job before this was nodding a lot at meetings, tried to mediate. "Hey, Karen says there's a misunderstanding with your garage. Can we chat?" I sent him a polite, vague reply. "Sorry, spotty service. Back next week." That was it. No drama, no details. Meanwhile, Karen was escalating. She CC'd the board, the community lawyer, probably her cousin, anyone who'd listen. She claimed I'd unlawfully detained her vehicle. My neighbor Jerry, guy knows everybody's business, texted me a photo. Karen standing outside my garage with a locksmith. But here's the best part. The locksmith refused to help without proof she had rights to the property. Karen lost it. Apparently, she even started recording herself for evidence of hostile neighbor behavior. The kids in the neighborhood started a tally. "Free the SUV." Chalked it on the sidewalk. By the time I got back, a week had passed. Karen was waiting, arms crossed, sunglasses reflecting my every move. She let loose. Hostile environment, community cooperation, violation of her rights. I kept it simple. "You parked in my garage. You left a note, not a request. I secured my property." She sputtered, tried to play the victim. That evening, the HOA called an emergency meeting. Karen rolled in with a binder thick enough to choke a horse, argued her case like she was Perry Mason. When it was my turn, I calmly presented her note, the locksmith's voicemail, photos of her SUV in my locked garage. It wasn't dramatic, just facts. Doug cleared his throat. "Karen, you'll be fined for trespassing and unauthorized vehicle storage." The room went silent. Karen just stood there, stunned. A couple people snickered. She stormed out. 2 days later, the HOA sent out a formal letter. Karen was removed from her board position, her voting rights suspended. There would be no appeal. Life changed after that. Neighbors started talking, waving, decorating their porches again. Jerry called to say, "If you ever run for HOA president, you've got my vote." Karen's patrol stopped. Her yard got a little wild. For sale sign went up. And when she finally left, nobody waved goodbye. The street felt lighter, like the air had finally cleared. That I didn't gloat. I just sat in my driveway one evening, cold drink in hand, watching the sun go down. My garage was empty and wide open. No more drama, just space that belonged to me. Justice in suburbia isn't always flashy, but when it comes, you know it. So tell me, what would you have done? Was I right to lock her out, or should I have just let it go? Where do you draw the line between standing up for yourself and letting the petty stuff slide? Share your take below, because if there's one thing this neighborhood's taught me, it's that everyone's got an opinion about what's fair, and sometimes you gotta close the door yourself to finally let some peace in.